Boeing has been one of the most beat up stocks in the market in 2024. Shares down about 30% year to date. Outgoing CEO David Calhoun had his feet held to the fire this week on Capitol Hill. For more on what's next and analysis of Boeing, we want to welcome in Stewart Glickman, Deputy Research Director and Energy Equity Analyst, CFRA Research. Stewart, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Let's start out with takeaways from Calhoun. He appeared on Capitol Hill earlier this week. He made some apologies. We knew he was going to apologize in terms of prepared remarks. What are your takeaways from that?
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me. So you're right. The commentary was heavy on apologies. And quite honestly, the incident in January where the plug door blew off the plane, the Alaska Airlines plane mid-flight, is an undefendable incident. So I think Mr. Calhoun is appropriately trying to apologize for lack of attention to detail on quality. But I think Boeing has a long way to go in improving its attention to detail and getting back to quality being job one. And that's going to take a long time to convince regulators that they're there.
All right. And let's talk about some of the risks that Boeing is facing. I mean, it's just really had a problematic year. You have a sell rating on Boeing. You have a $147 price target. The stock is already down year to date. What's the outlook for the company for the balance of the year? What are the risks that you're paying attention to?
Right. So if you think about 2024, I think most investors are treating this as a lost year. This is not going to be a good year for Boeing. Last year, Airbus, between the two of them, Airbus and Boeing, obviously the duopoly in the space, Airbus had almost 60% market share between the two. It's growing this year up to around 65, 66% almost so far this year through May. So I think most investors are looking at Boeing from an investment perspective through the lens of what does 2025 look like? And I think that, at the moment, the FAA is limiting them to no more than 38 deliveries of 737 MAX jets per month. We are nowhere close to that right now. And I think that it's going to be a slow go on their ramp-up process to get even close to 38. So I think if you're a bull on Boeing, you're arguing that 2025 is a V-shaped recovery, that we're going to go well past 38 because the FAA is going to, take the manacles off and we're off to the races. And I think it's going to be a slower process, and that's why I'm negative on Boeing.
And then when you think about the kind of the leadership at the top, I mean, although David Calhoun was facing off with lawmakers this week, he's kind of holding the bag for the rest of the year, but they're searching for a new CEO. What are you paying attention to when it comes to that?
So I think, Diane, great question. Two things. Number one, I think they need somebody from outside the organization because from a culture perspective, what got Boeing to this moment with Alaska Air 1282 is a function of internal culture simply not being up to the task. And I think the second thing they need is somebody with an engineering and avionics background that knows how to put planes together. So I think the combination of those two things is going to be really important. I am encouraged to some degree that the chairman of the board, Stephen Mollenkopf, is himself an engineer. So I think having somebody at the top of the board who is going to be helpful in making that decision probably is a step in the right direction. But we have to see whether they're going to stick to their knitting and keep closed ranks and promote somebody internally or actually go outside their circle and find somebody new.
All right, and let's talk a little bit about just the broader impact of the problem after problem for Boeing. It started with that panel earlier this year, but then you find out about other safety concerns. What does that do from your point of view to the outlook for airlines in general?
Right, so if you're a customer of Boeing or of Airbus, because Airbus also has some supply chain problems, to be fair, it makes it very difficult to plan because the planes that you thought you were going to be receiving in-house in 2024, a lot of those have been pushed back. And so airlines have had to slash their own schedules because the planes simply don't exist yet. What this means is that the airlines are going to be running their current planes for longer than they would like. It means they're going to be experiencing probably higher maintenance expenses because older planes tend to have things break down more often. It's good news for the companies that provide replacement parts. So, for example, GE Aerospace or TransDigm, both of those companies we cover, we have 4 stars or buy opinions on those because those aftermarket businesses should fare well. But in the interim, because Boeing and Airbus are really the only games in town for narrow body or wide body jets, you simply have to wait and hope that they get their ducks in a row and that these problems get eradicated.
And it's true. That's often what I think about when it comes to Boeing. It really is it's just one of two. All right, Stewart Glickman, great insight on Boeing and outlook for that space. Deputy Research Director and Energy Equity Analyst, CFRA Research.